Welcome to Actionable Impact, Rebuilding Communications for the AI Era. And today we're joined by an amazing guest, my friend, Amy Dunham, Chief Communications Officer at Habitat for Humanity International. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew.
Before we get into AI and how we're transforming communications, people may think they know Habitat. I'm sure they've heard the name, but tell us a little bit about what it really is and your role in communications in the organization.
So yeah, I hear a lot when I tell people I work for Habitat, I get a kind of like, I just show them a puppy and I get the kind of head tilt.
Better
But
than the
then people are
alternative.
like, yeah. And it's just like, wait, Habitat International? Habitat works outside of the United States? It's like, yeah, we're in over 60 countries and all 50 states. And so a lot of people know us for building homes, but they don't know that we also repair and finance homes and do microfinance and land rights and all different kind of works all over the world. So it's a fun job to get people to take a fresh look at Habitat because we're actually trying to make a meaningful impact on the housing crisis.
Amazing. And what does your team look like?
So we're in just about every time zone that exists. So across Asia Pacific and Africa and Latin America and Europe and the Middle East. So we're doing everything from web and press to thought leadership and advocacy and design and photography. So it's a robust team that's really trying to support our operations around the world.
And before we get to the team, let's just start with you personally. What has been the single favorite tool or use case of AI for you personally so far?
Goodness. Well, it's different in my personal life than it is in my
Well, give us
professional life.
both.
Yeah. So personal life, I love it for trip planning. Planning trips is my love language. And so I took my teenage daughter to New York for the first time a few weeks ago and really like co-creating that agenda with her around food and what we were going to do. It was a great way to have kind of a mediator in trying to build in some culture and the stuff that she wanted to see too and stuff. So I love it for that. I love it for music discovery as well, which is a big thing that I like to use it for. In the workplace, I use it a lot for testing ideas and the things that really daunt me most on the blinking cursor. So it's just give me some mental models for how I might tackle this issue, whether it's facilitating a session or a tough conversation or organizational design. I just really like it to be able to, and I like to ask it questions about like, act like this, give me cited sources that I can validate. And I find it gets me past the fear of the blinking cursor.
So it's a great thought partner. Love that. At the highest level, when you think about for your team, is AI more about saving time or is it more about new capabilities?
I'd say at this point, it's still more about saving time and efficiency because as a nonprofit, we have a lot of data that we need to protect and we don't always have the most modern systems. So we haven't been able to deploy yet like a full LLM with access to all of our data. And it's funny, it's in some quarters, I'd be like so nervous to share that, but it's the whole point of this podcast is be like, no, not everybody is on the bleeding edge of
No,
things.
we're working through it.
And so it's much more about leveraging it where it's built into the tools that we already use. And so just really leveraging those capabilities. So in our brand tracker, in our design software, in all of the systems that we use every day, and where we do use the LLM is to really take a look at, hey, can you look at this process and figure out how we can make it better?
So what tools are you using now where you're seeing real benefit?
So in our brand tracker, it used to be that you had to be able to know how to build a dashboard. And now you can just enter a plain text query and say, hey, what does our audience look like in this particular market? Where are the demographic shifts? And so it makes building things easier. And then you don't even have to do the step of like exporting the dashboard. It's already got the narrative and the charts already built out. So it makes it much easier to share the data with key audiences. So I find that it's made the tool a lot more accessible and people are actually using it more now that it's easier to use.
Well, one of the big questions that we hear from CCOs and CMOs is that actually, while it looks like we're saving time, there are all these new surface areas of new challenges that AI is now making us deal with. Do you find that your team actually has new free time to tackle new things they didn't before, or are we adding to the plate?
Ooh, that's a tough question in a year where we're launching our first brand campaign ever. I feel like we've already filled the plate with a lot of new things, but a lot of that is leveraging the tools to figure out how might we on the new things. So I wouldn't say it's creating space. It's helping us mitigate risk or at least reduce the gap between idea and action, but I wouldn't say it's freeing up space just yet for us.
Got it. Well, tell us about your big campaign. It's the 50th anniversary of Habitat for Humanity. What is the one thing you wish people knew about it?
So we're not leading with the anniversary, I think is the big thing because the fact that we've been around for 50 years isn't going to be compelling to everyone. What we really want to acknowledge is that the housing crisis is a pretty much everyone thing at this point. And so we can't build our way out of it. So though people might know us for building, there's a lot of the other things that we need to do around advocacy and changing systems and creating new financial tools that are actually it's the full suite of things that are needed to address the problem. And there's a lot of different ways to get involved and get smarter because we want to bring housing within reach for everyone, and that's going to take everyone coming together.
Well, you just picked the easy problem. So people may not know. Prior to Habitat, you were in government, you were at the NCAA doing college sports. Is the government experience relevant to what you're doing today? It sounds like it with climate change and systemic change.
It is, and also Habitat's a federation. So it's an organization where Habitat International is the company that I work for, and we have affiliates all over the world that each have their own local board. And so when you're trying to drive strategy or brand refresh or campaign, it's about getting people on board. So there's a lot of coalition building and coalition of the willing and making clear the value proposition. So yeah, it's a bit like you need to have a majority whip to get it done sometimes.
Well, and which is easier, fixing college sports or fixing the housing crisis?
No comment. Yeah, it's interesting, because the NCAA is also an association of about 1,000 members. I expected competition between Alabama and Auburn. I didn't expect the kind of competition that happens even within a non-profit federation, so that was actually really useful experience to be able to bring to this. But yeah, I would like to think but people don't paint their bodies in excitement over housing where they do in college sports, so whether it's tougher or more emotional, I suppose reasonable minds can disagree on that.
Fair enough. All right, let's play a little buzzword bingo and just
Okay.
talk a little about some of the different topics that we hear about in AI all the time. Which ones are you seeing? Which ones are you getting value out of? Which ones are you not focused on at this point? Given the global nature, let's start with localization and storytelling. How do you balance telling those local, amazing, powerful stories you have with, not becoming AI slop?
Yeah, so the good news, bad news there is that authenticity and that we don't ever tell a story that isn't an actual homeowner story. So connecting with real humans and our brand research really shows that even if you share statistics at a national level, people are like, I don't know if that's real. They really want to know what's happening in their own community. So we need to stay hyper local even as we try to connect to broader changes in the world. So our research has borne that out. And we have a policy that no imagery that's altered in any way by AI can ever be used. We do use it for learning because just that's such an industry standard now where if you're doing training, there can be an AI, kind of presenter or voiceover, but we always make very clear that it's AI. But localization is always going to have to be what we do.
How about GEO or sort of optimization of AI search results and what it knows about you?
Yeah, that's definitely something we're looking at. We get a lot of organic traffic, and now we're looking more closely at how organic is that really? Is it because they saw it in AI and then opened up a browser, or they found it organically? And are we optimized for GEO? That's definitely something we're starting to talk about. Luckily, based on what we've looked at, we're in pretty decent shape, but it's something that we want to stay in front of.
Definitely. How about disinformation? I mean, you mentioned whether people believe it. With Habitat for Humanity, it feels to me like such a high trust organization, but I'm sure you're facing it.
It's something we're mindful. We see there is a persistent scam on Facebook. Somebody out there saying like free roof repairs from Habitat.
Gosh.
It's not. They're scamming people, and it's whack-a-mole trying to because every time we get an account canceled, a new one pops up. So it absolutely happens where people try to capitalize on the trust of the brand to scam and have disinformation. So that's something that we're mindful of, and it happens more than you would like to see.
Well, that's a shame. How about synthetic data? Are you using this to test your messaging and your creative?
Not yet. I'm intrigued by it, having just invested in research on our brand just in the last year and having an ongoing brand tracker. We're feeling like the human data that we have right now is still serving us. So it's something I'm interested to dip a toe in, but the current data that we have doesn't feel aged enough yet that it's something we need to really lean into.
And what about influencers? I know you're taking a really local approach to this campaign.
Yeah, it's funny. Studies say that we all think there's too many influencers, and then we all still follow influencers to make our
All the
decisions
time.
and get influenced all the time. So I think it's a reality of how people are making decisions today. And so we're certainly looking at how can we engage people where there's genuine affinity and interest, but we're really finding that we have to do education of influencers just like everybody else in the world for not understanding what it is that we do. So we're leaning in really hard. We're focusing on human influencers though, not AI ones.
Appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit adoption because I know you mentioned the affiliate model, and I've heard you talk about the tools you're giving to the local affiliates, which obviously has a huge AI component. How do you balance control, adoption, flexibility? Can we just love to hear your thinking?
Yeah. So, I mean, we joke that if you've seen one affiliate, you've seen one affiliate. We have everything from affiliates that have 200 employees and are building whole subdivisions on an ongoing basis to single volunteer run out of the basement of a church. So we really try to make everything scalable. That if you're a highly sophisticated with a VP of marketing, tap into our brand tracker tool and stuff. Here's things for the smaller ones. It's like, here's the toolkit. Here's where you can do this at a scalable level, which is why we adopted the approach for our campaign of let's open the door. Generally speaking, if you're a Habitat affiliate, you can get your hands on a door. And it's got the metaphor of literally a low threshold to entry. So we really tried to make it where it can be high tech, it can be very grassroots. So kind of scalability around a core idea is what we focus on. And for those that are more sophisticated, we do the webinars and everything like that about how you can really dig in and look at the data and access the tools.
But what does a brand toolkit look like today versus maybe 5 years ago, right? You're not just handing somebody, some images.
Yeah, so our brand guide, of course, is about 85 pages long. But then we've also really found that it's important to sit down with people. Even if you can just spend 30 minutes where you sit in it with them, they're much more willing to see that guide as something that's a tool that they can leverage rather than something that's being done to them. Our updated brand platform literally has blank spaces in it for people to put in the words that resonate most locally. So it's a lot less rigid. And so we've taken away the checklist and given them autonomy, which forces a bit of thinking. And at first, some people were a little nervous by that, but they're starting to see the value of doing that. And of course, we have the data that that's worthwhile. But I joked that I took kind of the Holy Spirit approach. Wherever two or more people were gathered, I would show up and talk about the brand refresh. So just a really ambitious roadshow to go and talk to people and share our excitement about it. And that goes the longest way in a federation.
Well, I think that roadshow has been really important for all AI adoption and marketing transformation. I mean, can you tell a story? Is there an example of something not just that has come sort of top down from international, but where some amazing creativity or campaign worked locally that you've actually scaled the other way?
Absolutely. Great ideas come from everywhere. And actually, one of the first AI presentations I ever saw was the CEO of a small Habitat affiliate out of Virginia. And she was presenting at the Habitat Canada conference of all places. And she was really thoughtful about like, here's how you can use it for optimizing your marketing newsletter to free up time for the one person on your team that wears 19 hats, including writing them. So it was really practical about what you can do, even at a small level, and not get overwhelmed by it. And so I think that there's a lot of that where it's just, and so I love that in our network, we're giving a platform to leaders at whatever level they may be to be able to share those best practices with others in the network.
And is there one thing as you think about the most recent campaign, is there one thing that you think would just not have been possible even a year ago?
Goodness. I mean, we'd never done a brand campaign in history. So, I mean, the whole thing didn't feel possible a year ago. What I would say is that actually leaning into something other than photographs of build sites, that has been our bread and butter for our visual identity for forever. So, commissioning artists to draw digital artwork of what makes home feel like home is just a totally new thing that we've never done before. And it's just as emotional as a picture, but it opens up a whole new way to talk about our mission. So I'm really excited about that.
Amazing. What is success? Like, how do you convince your board, your donors that, this is in fact modern and the leading edge of the nonprofit world and they should keep investing in it?
So nothing like a good business case goes a long way. So we have very clear goals and metrics and KPIs around the three pillars of it, which is brand, revenue, and movement. And we've got metrics on each of those. And we're going to have our first report in the next couple of weeks. So wish me well, and we'll see what that looks like. But it's also just having the patience for the right time scale to evaluate success. Marketing is a longer lead than straight revenue plays. So we have to kind of hold like Braveheart and be like, let's see what it looks like after 6 months, rather than say after a month we don't know enough and lose our cool. So excited to try to learn and pivot and tweak as we go, but hopefully have the patience to determine what is the longer term play.
Love a good Braveheart analogy. Tell everyone what movement means to you.
So, in our strategic plan, inspiring action for housing is a key thing that we do. Volunteers building houses is not a construction strategy. It is not the most efficient and effective way to
I
build a
would not
house,
be that helpful.
but it's a changing hearts and minds. You have this opportunity to feel empowered that this is something that I can accomplish. I helped build a wall today. I helped make a house more of a home than a construction site today by my opportunity. It makes the overarching problem feel more achievable, more solvable. But then it's also you get to meet the homeowner and hear their story, and it creates empathy and understanding that sometimes people are in this situation not because they didn't work hard enough, but because there are very real barriers. So you understand what that homeowner experience is, you get to have the hands-on participation with it, and you get to learn a little bit about what housing means in that community. So inspiring that action for housing is a really important part of what we do. And so in the campaign, getting people to see the connections between if you get housing right, education gets easier, health gets better, all of those kind of things, that they're deeply connected. We install concrete floors in South America where there had been dirt floors so that moms can put their babies down, which has huge implications for early childhood development, but also infant mortality. So there's interventions in housing that have huge implications, and we find that we really need to be very on the nose in helping people make those connections because they're not thinking about housing necessarily, but it's really a core player in a lot of things.
So powerful. And turning to the earn side, because obviously you want journalists to cover those stories, breaking through is harder than ever. Is technology and AI changing how you're thinking about the earn program?
Yeah, I mean, and so newsrooms have changed so much. I started my career in media relations, and I'm a huge fan and advocate for the media, and newsrooms are decimated and things are a lot harder now. So we're really leaning into where can we bring unique data to play as well, because reporters who are covering 15 beats where they used to have one, we know that they need a point of view and data to back it up in one stop. So it's one of the reasons that we're really leaning into research and data as part of what we can provide from HFHI on behalf of the network, so that we make it easier for our network to engage with media with both the data and the point of view.
And thinking about your team, your global team in all the time zones, is the technology transformation different region to region? Are there some areas where people are eager to adopt the tools? Are there some where people are nervous? How are you seeing that?
So I think there's demographic, there's cultural, there's I mean my team is no different than the rest of society. I have people that are super excited to lean in. I have people that are curious, and I have people that are saying, "Can you take it off of my computer?" And it runs the whole gamut. And I see that more by roles than I do by regions. But particularly our team in our design team is leaning in a lot on this because they see the opportunities and they're spread in multiple places.
And how do you encourage those that are a little nervous?
So I think where it's practical, I think that I think everybody's seen the meme where it's like every leader and they're pouring it's like two puppets pouring the water into the other puppet on AI. That's not helpful. Where you can be like, hey, I tried it for this and I found it helpful, or I tried it for this and it didn't work at all. Sharing both, I think, is important. I tried to use AI to turn a Word document into a PowerPoint and it was hilariously bad. I shared that with the team to be like, fail. I could have done it faster myself by the time I got to the third round of it. But it's like, hey, when we actually looked at it for updating our logic ladder on how we actually determine where a process should go forward, that was really helpful. So share both, I think, is really important because if you make it sound like it's all good or all bad, that plays into people's confirmation bias. So just trying to be transparent about what we're using it for is the best thing we can do.
How about risks? Is there anything that, particularly for your organization, you're particularly nervous about with AI?
So donor data, that's of course a big one. We have a lot of donor data and certainly homeowner data. Homeowner stories are not content. Those are people's lived experiences. And so we don't ever use a homeowner's experience in any place that we don't have their express permission to do so. So we're very concerned, we're very specific about where we put those stories, because if they were to get grabbed up and used and distorted in any way, that's not our information to share. So that's something that we're really mindful about, and that why we have a policy now about we don't do anything that's AI that could be like trying to pretend like it's an AI created habitat homeowner. So that's where we have donor data and homeowner stories is our biggest areas of concern.
Got it. Great ones. And what about the wish list? What do you wish existed if you could draw on a magic wand and have one tool that could transform your team's effectiveness? What would it be?
Goodness. Well, I mean, I think it would be an LLM where we could enter our brand guide and all of that, and have it talk to our, our Canto, where it pulls all of our images, and where we have, so I mean, something that could actually help us explore across all we do, because we have hundreds of programs being implemented to meet the local needs. So sometimes it's a bit of a vision quest to try to find the right story. So something that we could really just have all of it dumped in from across the organization, that I think will be great. I get why we're not there yet, but something like that I think would make my team's job a lot more navigable.
And and if that were possible and you were able to save a huge amount of time, is there something that you wish your team could do that just there's no way that you're ever going to have time to do now?
Oh my goodness. I think every team has a number 11 on the top 10 list, and we have a number of those things. And a lot of it is how can we have conversations with our colleagues internally about where can they rely less on us for the small C communications so we can focus more on the big C communications. Every internal communications team, in-house communication teams, could get pulled into 100% internal work if their internal clients had their
Always.
way, and finding that balance. And my hope is that as these tools become more readily available, we're able to focus more on the external work that I think can actually help us drive more value for the business than doing a lot of the internal work.
What do you look for when you're hiring for your team?
Curiosity, I think, is the biggest one, because that's such a transferable skill. If you are interested in learning, because that means you're going to be interested in learning about the business. I'm a firm believer that communications and marketing are transferable skill sets. I've been in multiple industries, and if you're curious about the new industry that you're joining, apply your skills and you're going to be great. So curiosity is a really important one. Willingness to try new things. So informed risk. And I think both of those things translate really cleanly to AI. If you are curious and willing to try new things with an informed risk perspective, you're going to find the best ways to make AI make your job easier.
How do you stay current in this given how fast it's going?
Ooh. Well, I have the benefit of a pretty curated newsletter list that I read. I haven't watched cable news since I left Washington in
Can you share any of the
2011.
newsletters?
I'm a big Axios fan. They know this. I read a lot of the Axios stuff. There's several other smaller newsletters that I read that I really enjoy. I'm a big fan of the PBS NewsHour. Shout out to elder millennials. I think it's a great deeper dive. There's some great podcasts. I also have the benefit of my husband is like a super user. He's created 2 businesses with AI. So I get it at the dinner table, whether I want it or not. I'm getting lots of AI insight from my better half.
Amazing. And lastly, what advice would you give to someone who's just coming out of school today?
The advice that I give to all people coming out of school, coming into the communications and marketing space, is see yourself as a business person who knows how to communicate rather than a communicator who learns the business. And if you see yourself as a business person, then efficiency and business value and ROI is going to be part of how you're approaching your work. AI is absolutely a tool in that space. You need to be leveraging it. So if you're in the headspace of being a business person who knows how to communicate, then exploring all of the tools and the technologies and the trends that are happening in the industry are going to serve you.
Well, that was super actionable. Thank you for being here, Amy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Andrew.